So, Geometry Dash is a game with a ranking system, and at the very top sits the United States. This measure is somewhat inaccurate though, since some countries have more people than others. So naturally, I did the calculations and found the real best country at Geometry Dash. By the way, this isn't serious, this data is severely flawed. So, the process was simple. I would take a country's list points and divide it by the country's population. This literally took forever though, since I had to do the same thing like 100 times. So, at first place, we have the island of Guernsey in the English Channel at 0.0085 list points per person, or 117 people per list point. The main reason this wins as the best country at Geometry Dash is solely because of the player Chubdubs, who has 540 list points. Guernsey also only has 50,000 people, and this combined gives Guernsey the highest list points per person, even though literally only a single person actually plays Geometry Dash in Guernsey. Iceland is the second best country at 0.006 points per person, or 167 people per list point, and is mostly carried by 1. Iceland having like 3 people in total, and 2. Crisis hard carrying the entire country. The last country in the top 3 is Estonia at 0.00097 points per person, or 1,031 people per point, this time having a pretty strong lineup of actual players, while also being carried by Breakcore. Combined with its small population of only 1.3 million people and its 10 actual players, Estonia becomes the 3rd best country at Geometry Dash. Now for the top 3 worst countries at Geometry Dash. At the number 104 spot, we have Saudi Arabia, the worst country at Geometry Dash with list points. Truthfully, other countries don't even have list points, so technically they aren't the worst, but out of the countries that do, they have the lowest amount of points per person, at 0.000004 per person, which means it would take a whopping 2.6 million Saudi Arabians to equate to one singular list point. By this comparison, it would take 650 million Saudi Arabians to get enough list points equivalent to beating Acheron, the top 1. I guess the Saudi Arabians are too busy drilling oil to play Geometry Dash. At the number 103 spot, we have India. Now this one is kind of unfair, since when you have over a billion people in your country, any per capita or per person measurement comes out to be very low. And by very low, I mean very low. 0.000006 points per person to be exact. That's 1.5 million people just to equate to one list point. The final country in the top 3 worst countries at Geometry Dash is Somalia, at number 102. At 1.528 million people per list point, it barely edges out India for the number 102 spot. Honestly, the fact that Somalia even has any list points at all is beyond a miracle in itself. This placement really isn't difficult to explain, as when your country is in a constant state of civil war, starvation, and poverty, there isn't a lot of time to be focusing on playing Sonic Wave by Cyclist. Alright, here's some fun facts. The entire top 16 countries are entirely dominated by Europe, making Europe the best continent at Geometry Dash. Here are the other best countries in each continent. Europe has Guernsey at number 1. Oceania has Australia at number 17. Asia has Laos at number 18. The Middle East has Israel at number 20. The Americas has Cuba at number 22. South America has Chile at number 26. And finally, Africa has South Africa at number 71. The United States, which currently has the highest total list points, places at a measly number 61, which places the United States on the worst half of the list. Though, with the 3rd highest population, this is pretty explainable. In fact, all countries with over 100 million people did not even make it to the better half of the list, with the highest ranking country being Russia at number 54. This list shows a clear bias towards countries with less people, but fuck it, I'm too deep in to change anything. Here's a dark one. Ukraine actually gained 4 ranks, growing from number 56 to number 52, just by the extreme population drop following the Russo-Ukrainian War. So overall, this measure is pretty inaccurate, but at the same time it's also pretty interesting. I'll drop a link to the document with all the rankings in the description so you can just look at where your country is and stuff.